Let's go. All right. So we've been here for like 30 seconds and we already have, you know, messages being erased. But that happens. All right. First guest. What's that?
Hi, transsexuals versus transgender.
Hmm.
Can you explain to me, like, the definition?
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
So,
I know transsexual, but I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. My cat is, like, literally, like, freaking the fuck out.
okay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, transsexual. Sorry, hold on. Transsexual. What transgender? I want to hear your definition. So that way I know you're, like, legit and not being a troll and being, like, a terrible person.
Okay. Oh no. Uh, okay. So from what I understand from my experience, what I've been reading around in the communities, and also just from like literature and stuff, essentially, being like we kind of would start off with being transgender, and being transgender is the experience. Like it's a phenomenon where an individual's like understanding of their gender or their gender identity, there's lots of different words to utilize for this, but their understanding of that and their birth gender or sex, those are two different things. There's some type of distinction or dissonance between those things. Now this dissonance can create different phenomenons within the people, and I think for some people it can create like distress or discomfort that becomes so intense that it would require some type of like medical care to alleviate the difficulty of their sex not matching their desired sex. And that individual, those who take the steps to change their sex characteristics of any kind, would land in the transsexual category. Um, but they would still be like they'd be both transgender and transsexual. That's the definitions. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to understand because I'm personally with me. Well, I was bi. I've actually experimented with my life and stuff. I'm not going to
Okay.
go into details, but I have a lot of friends who had, um, what is it? The I had friends who had the procedure done.
Okay.
Two people in my life, and both people had, well, actually one person had hormonal only, and then the second person actually had the procedure done. But both people that I talked to in my personal life always told me that it would cost so much money. That was the problem, that I always, like, whenever I look on the topic, I always think about, like, okay, like, women, men, transgender or what, like, they have like money, but I had friends that couldn't even afford hormonal surgery or hormonal injections or
Hmm.
anything. Like, it was actually kind of sad. And then eventually they
Yeah.
actually, like, they messaged me and told me, it it affected them so badly that, like, it was just not possible. So I think that that's not fair, and nobody really talks about that.
Okay.
And
And
then
I'm wondering if you're asking right now, like, are people excluded from being considered transsexual if they can't afford medication or surgery? I don't think that that's the case. Like,
well,
yeah.
that's the problem though, because I live in California,
Okay.
and, like, I don't know. California, I thought, was like a liberal state. I thought, like, I'm just like an average person. Like, I'm not like somebody who's like super intuitive, but like, my friends tell me that, like, it costs so much money for them and their insurance can't cover it.
Okay.
Their life can't cover it. And it makes me so sad because they they actually had procedures done, but they were never to afford the complete like trans transformation. You
Okay.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm speaking like I'm not trans. You know what I mean? And I
Okay.
always thought that was like it's so unfair. And I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I don't know any of the details of like the politics behind it, but it's actually kind of true because like I actually genuinely believe that like they don't focus on people who actually have to transfer to the gender that they want to be. And myself, I actually identify myself as a woman,
Okay.
and my friend is trying to go from male to female,
Okay.
and um she doesn't like, well, he identifies as he now. That's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, because he can't afford it.
Okay. Like, I guess like people have different paths on their journey. So sometimes when a person, if a person, even if a person is transgender or transsexual, like, and maybe they're in the middle of their transition, but they like can't access hormones or something like that, they may not feel comfortable having people use she, her pronouns for them. That might cause more
Right.
dysphoria for them. So it's just about letting people go through their journey in whatever way is best. For some
Right.
people, they have some people never are able to access this care. And so sometimes they, for what medical reasons, financial reasons, whatever, political reasons, family, whatever, sometimes have to live their entire life like ignoring, or I don't know about ignoring, but not being able to live their full as their full self or whatever. Um, and yeah, there are a lot of different types of
Oh, but it
political
makes me so
things,
upset though because like,
insurance related things that can make it more difficult as well.
no, I totally understand, and I it just makes me so upset though when I see like women who transition to women who bash on men who haven't transitioned. You know, because I don't know. It's because of my friends, because like I see how much it costs. It's so expensive
Mhm.
to have those procedures done, and nobody talks about that. They talk about the looks, and they talk about like so many things, and it makes me extremely upset because it's literally a very hard thing to actually achieve, and a lot of people suffer through that.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's
I
really tough.
actually
Yeah,
see it
it's
on,
very hard.
well, I saw it on Instagram like maybe like 3 years ago, 3 years ago when Instagram was like relevant before TikTok. But on Instagram, I saw a lot of posts about people that were like struggling with like trying to manage their procedures and trying to get what they wanted to have, like to be like that person. But like literally, like it was just so expensive, and that's why like I just feel bad for the people that suffer through having not to look the gender that they want to be when they're a transgender. I'm talking about transgender, not transsexual. I'm talking about transgender people.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel bad for them because they want to look the way that they want to look. And that's how I view them. And I'm speaking from myself that's like trying to like, I'm not transgender, but that's my best ability to try to understand.
Yeah, I think yeah, sounds like you have a compassionate perspective and like you understand how difficult that this can be for a lot of people. I'm wondering if you have any other thoughts or questions that you'd like to ask.
Are you transgender or wait, what? Like transsexual? I don't know.
I would be both. Yeah, I would consider myself as both because yeah, have the experience of my gender being different from my assigned sex, and I also have like taken medical steps to adjust some of those things.
Sorry, my cat's like cuddling with me.
No worries.
But yeah, I just don't agree with like the hate on like especially like this app that like I've seen more hate on this app and on Instagram. Like it's terrible. Like I actually genuinely think like people should actually have some more of compassion in class and understand that like people go through their own lives and mind your fucking business. Um
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
seriously, mind your fucking business. It's so fucking
Yeah.
weird that like people actually like focus on so many people and then you live your own lives and you mind your business, right? You mind your business, but yet you focus on other people and then you want to like be involved in other people's and then yet you don't even know them. You don't even fucking know them.
Yeah.
And then you're judging them. You're being prejudiced and you're being rude. You don't understand what people are going through and what people have in their lives. Like it well, what I mean by what people are going through, like I'm talking about my friend Luna from Oregon. Like I'm talking about my
Okay.
friend because he's a he now because he can't afford the actual transition. So now he is a man, but he wanted to be a woman. And that is real.
That's
That
very
is
true.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
I do wish that it would just was easier in this world to be able to access the things that the people need, like medical care. Like that's what it is.
yes, it
It's
should be a part of
people being
medical
able to access
care.
medical care.
Like honestly, because when he texts me, well, I'm saying he because he texts me and he he sometimes texts me sometimes and I'm not going to share that stuff, but it, it is definitely a journey. If you actually know somebody who
Yeah.
is going through this life, please do not speak about it. Like, why are you speaking about it? Unless if like learn, just learn. That's the whole process.
Yeah.
Just learn. Like learn about it. That's the whole reason why like, they teach it in schools. I don't know what they're doing in schools because I'm not a kid. I'm obviously older. I'm an adult. I don't know what's going
Okay.
on in classes, but hopefully they're teaching it the right way. But at least
I
they're
get that.
trying,
Yeah.
and that's enough.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the compassionate perspective that you have. And someone in the comments was saying like, make sure you let Luna know that their identity is valid, even regardless of their access to surgery or hormones or
Oh,
anything like that.
he's very happy right now. He's got like he has like a dog uh training thing. He trains dogs in Oregon. He's
Okay.
so fucking happy right now. But like the whole entire year that I had, it was definitely like hard because it was super hard dealing with like the confusion. Like he was so confused. And then at the same time he couldn't even afford it and then we had to talk about money and I was trying my best to be a friend and I tried my best.
Yeah. Sounds like you're doing a good job. So,
Well, that's all I had to say, but with the whole transsexual versus transgender thing, what is transsexual to you?
oh, it's just like essentially transgender people who need medical transition. Like that's what it is. A transgender person who needs medical transition is a transsexual person.
Because they were born that way?
Yeah, transgender and transsexual people from the research that we have right now, like it's not perfect, but it seems to be like some type of biological thing, like very similar to how people are gay. Like it just kind
The
of happens
comments are
for some
so
reason.
rude.
Oh yeah. Well, on top
They're
of that.
so rude. You guys need to have an open mind. Like
Oh yeah.
seriously, You guys need to understand that, like, it's none of your damn business. And, like, people who live their lives, why are you judging them? Why?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing it? What is it? Because of your own belief? Well, keep it to yourself. Write a journal. I could go to fucking I could go to fucking like Michael's and buy a journal. It's like literally like it's amazing. Just write it out. Why do you have to share that shit?
Yeah. Keep your
Right?
inside thoughts.
Yes. Because it's like why do you do that? It's so rude. It's like you don't understand. Like there's so many people on this planet. There's so many people on this planet that go through their own things in their own life and they have their own experiences, but yet you want to make your experience dictate other people. Why do you do that? Why?
There's a lot of reasons, you know.
Okay, well, Paul Rick 84, if you're not judging anybody, then please show it because like honestly, you have you have said so many things here and it's so rude. It's so rude. And it's not even your life. Do I think about your life? Like, do I actually care about you in that way? But yet you're hating the topic, but like honestly, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. Like, why do you feel like it's so important for you to say that stuff? It makes you feel better, right?
Hey, you know, there's a lot of people who have a lot of send a lot of messages for a lot of reasons, and sometimes people are frustrating and want to be irritating. So I guess I don't know. Um, and like I said, dealing with people who and like I like to see it as people just making the algorithm, just contributing to the algorithm on my platform because otherwise it gets too annoying. Um,
Do you get a lot of hate on your lives?
like I don't like generally like it's like people say rude comments like that's kind of the worst that I get. I've never had people like I don't know harass me or anything like that, but people say rude comments
But
and stuff.
there's so many terrible people in this world. There's so many. Okay, you guys can fish and do your stuff and like hate on people, right? There's so many people that actually deserve it. But you really think that people do you really think that they deserve it? Like there's so many people in this world that actually do deserve that kind of hate. But you actually put that towards people here. It makes no goddamn sense. Like, it makes just because you believe in something. I understand you believe in something. Trust me. I'm an atheist and
Hmm.
I'm proud to be an atheist because I don't want to be a part of anything. I don't believe in religion or anything.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. And then yet you're picking on people and being so rude and being so disrespectful to people who don't even want to mess with you, but you're messing with them. What is
Yeah,
that? It's
I
so
think
one-sided. It's so
yeah,
terrible.
I think people are bored with their lives sometimes, and that's why they come here.
Yeah, they just come here and they just
Haters.
like want to say something. They just want to say something and be, "Yay, I'm an atheist." Well, you know what? Hate me for being an atheist. Hate me for being an atheist, Rev. I don't care. I'm proud to be an atheist. It doesn't make me sad. I've
I think
been
Rev is
like
like on your side. Like they're like congratulating you for being an NFL. I'm not
I
congratulating, but they're also
I
in agreement.
know. I know. They're like literally like being like so rude.
No, I'm saying
What?
that
Are you
they're
gonna
no,
say
they're like
yay for being Muslim? Yay for being
no, they're
Jewish?
literally being like I'm also an atheist. Hey, like they're not being mean. Like they're literally just saying like I'm
Oh,
also an
oh,
atheist.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry. I didn't I thought okay, whatever.
yeah. But I do appreciate you coming up to share your thoughts and your frustrations and things like that. And we'd love to have you come up another day.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow you actually. And I think it's great. And I'm sorry that that this app is like actually gonna be banned.
Yeah, that'll be a bummer. But
Yeah, it's gonna be a bummer, but I honestly think that it shouldn't be because we have actual like I feel like on this app we talk about things that the like we actually talk about. And I actually enjoy this app a lot. Seeing
for
people
sure.
speaking their mind and coming up here and just just expressing themselves and stuff. And I feel like it's like terrible that America wants to take it away. And but I'm moving to Canada actually in 3 days. So
Okay.
I'm gonna actually like have TikTok.
Well, hey, have fun.
I hope that everything is okay here and I hope that everything's great. But I'm leaving America because this place is like you guys need to seriously fix yourself. Like actually genuinely like fix yourself.
And we will.
I hope so.
Thanks a lot. I just gotta want to keep things flowing and moving forward. So, by the way, 80s kids' dreams, you actually had like good questions. Like it just is very annoying if you keep spamming. Like just stop fucking spamming. And also I'm gonna do that too. I was gonna do that, but then I forgot. But adding just the quick definitions underneath this because people ask me all the time, and I keep wasting my time saying it over and over again. But essentially, a transgender person is someone whose gender identity, understanding of their gender, preferred sex, or whatever, is different from their sex assigned at birth. Um, and then, so that person might need to do some things to adjust those things, like they might need to do some social changes, change their pronouns or something like that. And a transsexual person is basically a transgender person who needs medical care. And Dunnerman, one of the reasons why I think that this is so important is specifically so that people understand what the differences are. I think that people sometimes get confused. Like I know two trans people. One of them says, she's a trans woman and she looks like a woman. And then I've talked to someone else who's like gender nonconforming or something like that, and they say that they're a gender nonconforming man, but they haven't medically transitioned at all, so they look like a woman. I don't understand. I'm confused as to why they're like I'm confused as to why they're like that. So this is helping for people to understand this person is transgender, not transsexual. So they haven't done anything medically to change their body. They might not need to, and that's not necessary for them for whatever reason. But I'll answer your questions in person if you have any other ones that are useful.
Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
So, my thing is the subcategories on top of subcategory on top of subcategory. It's very hard for the general population to digest or want to digest or want to just like be a part of.
And that I definitely can make sense of that. And I think that these, I guess this make like does provide actual function and utility. Like there might be other things as to where like it might not be as important, like the difference between agender and like gender neutral. I don't know. I'm making this up. Like that might not be as important for the general public to know and understand, but it does seem more useful for the general public to understand like the medical concerns around why a trans person would need like medical care, why the insurance related conversations are so important.
So why would a trans person need? Because I don't think any trans person needs medical care. I think it might. I just don't see the person needing to like do that to themselves as far as like 'cause becoming transsexual is very takes a toll on your body.
Of course it does, yeah.
So
And
like
this is not something that a person would do unless there was medical necessity for it.
yeah,
That's why,
so what is the message?
yeah, in order to get in at least the United States, in the majority of states that I'm aware of, you need to have a letter
So
that
what is
says like
that
this
like?
person needs to have the surgery.
What
Like
is that necessity? Like what? Either I get the surgery or what?
or I live a life of incredible depression, discomfort, like, and yeah, living basically like unable to feel content, like inside of your skin, essentially.
I mean, a lot of people don't feel content inside of their skin.
Yeah, that's true. And
Like
they
even
have
people that
other ways of being able to like navigate those things. And like for example, if someone was born like blind and they're really upset about being blind, they can't. Yeah, there's not like a medical thing that someone can do to fix that. Yes, but for people who are born transgender, there is medical care that we can provide for them. So that's what it is,
I mean,
and this is the medical care that we provide.
so and
And if I guess
I'm cool with that.
if
No,
you
and I'm
disagree with
go ahead,
this,
finish.
like you would have to do the research of like I don't know the past like 70 years of medicine that they've been researching this for a long time. And as
So
of
if
right
you want
now,
my
the most
opinion,
useful and functional like treatment for transsexual people is medical transition so
I
far.
find a lot of times those studies are done by people who want to push the trans narrative, but that's neither here nor there. That's me being
Can you name
conspiracy.
like one person who's done a
Yeah,
study?
no, that's just be me. I have my. I've been doing a study on like what causes people. I've been doing my own study. I'm not no like fucking Harvard
You,
student or anything, but I've been
so
doing my
I'm
own
curious,
study.
I'm actually this is quite exciting. What are the parameters that you are utilizing for this study? Or is it
So
just you're going around and asking people questions?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that's
that's
not a
it's
study.
pretty much it. It's kind of like a tally system as
Yeah,
far as
that's not a study. That's
right.
and like I just want
That's
to
what
let you
I'm saying.
understand that that's not a like that's like what you're going to do is collect information that you have sought out and that you've seen, which does not give you an accurate representation of the community generally.
So what I find, so well, let me give you what I've gathered so far.
Okay.
So I think being a part of the LGBT community, like being like queer, gay, and like trans and stuff, I think they're all chemical imbalances in the brain. Which again, I'm not any chemist or I'm not any like brain neurosurgeon or anything. I don't know anything too much about the brain, but this is what like popped into my head one day, and I wanted to do the numbers on like what could be causing that. So I did like I asked the people like what kind of household they grew up in. What I found is that a lot of these people grow up in households where there's homophobia or
Oh no.
there's homophobia, right? Or there's people that have been come from like sexual abuse
Oh
or
no.
like just like being alone, like just being alone and like not being raised properly. So like a single mother, a single father.
Okay. So like this is actually really fascinating.
Right.
Those the little bit that you've discovered. One thing that I'm really interested in is human beings, we're animals. Like, do you agree with that? Like, we're a
Yeah, yeah,
type
yeah,
of
of
animal.
course. Of
Okay.
course. We're mammals.
So there are actually other animals who sometimes end up gay. So are they being abused? Do they have bad families?
No,
Like, what's
but
happening?
like I said, it's also what I think the general thing is a chemical imbalance in the brain.
I
So
know,
I
but like
what
this would usually have to apply to other mammals as well. Like it
Mhm.
generally would because sexual function in mammals has been pretty similar, across mammals. Like
So and then that's why I also believe that people
sexual
can
function
just
and gendered behavior is especially in primates, like these are things that are like biologically present in actual
of
species.
course. But I think
So
so what I
so
think
what I'm trying to say is like for this to be accurate or to have any legs on it, we would have to see similar patterns like in the
right.
wild. We would have to see like primates being like punched in the throat and then they become gay. But that's not
So
what happens. They just are
so
gay
my
sometimes.
my overall thesis is that like it's a chemical imbalance, but I think that sometimes what can cause a chemical imbalance is trauma. That's the overall like tallies that I've been doing. That
Okay.
like I think trauma can cause a chemical imbalance, and I haven't done the research on that, but I think it can.
Okay, so I need to make sure that you're understanding a couple of things. Number one, chemical imbalance theory is like not the most robust.
Right. No,
Like
of course, of course, of course.
yeah. So that whole thing, that whole idea, oh, you're depressed because of a chemical imbalance, like, is an interesting idea, but in currently, like, in the field of therapy, medicine, like, that's not the most like robust. Like, we don't utilize that anymore. And so you kind of pulling from that type of framework to utilize as like some type of modern like research like is very peculiar because these are not frameworks that are utilized that much anymore.
So
Does that
I
make
didn't know that.
sense?
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So like, but then
Yeah,
this is all stuff that I'm just like, I'm at work. And this is like my pastime debating on these lives.
right.
So I just become curious and I wanted to figure it out. And then again, I'm not
Because
like,
there's actual data for this stuff. Like there's actual studies. Like we've studied gay people and their brains and their family lives, and we have found that there is not a correlation. Like the data has been discovered. Like, did you look into it at all?
yeah,
Like, I'm really curious as to what you looked into.
I want to come
Like,
back on
seriously,
here.
how did you find none of this information?
No, I have a lot of it written down in my notebook in my house. I just didn't bring it today. I want to come back up on here with my notebook another day. But I also wanted to touch on what we were talking about earlier. As far as like it being hard to digest for the general population, just like
Okay,
the whole. How do you think we should lead? How do you think the LGBT community can make it easier on like the general population
with this,
with these right these
like,
conversations? Of course.
yeah, and like with understanding that there are like slight differences within trans people, but there isn't this type of like weird like toxicity around like who's a real trans, who's a fake trans. Not everyone who's trans is both. Some people are just one of them and not the other. Or I mean, at least some people are just transgender. If you're
Right.
gonna be transsexual, you have to be both.
I've only
Um,
met one transsexual. I've met a lot of transgenders.
yeah, I would say that like I actually don't know much about the data, for example. Like, yeah, there's nothing like that makes you more trans if you're transsexual.
No, of course.
It just happens to be like the way that it's showed up in your brain, the way that it
Being
kind of
black, you're
like
not more
functions in your
black
daily
if you.
life is just a little bit different, and
Yeah,
so you
it's like
need to
being
take,
black. You're not more
yeah,
black if you can cook a certain food, or you're not more black if you can dance a certain.
yeah, something
You know
like
what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah, and I
So,
think that helping people like to educate people that
of
this is
course.
just like for example, we had to educate the public that being gay was not like people actually thought that being gay was like deviant and like a mental health issue. Like what you were saying. People like the public actually believed that. Like psychology actually believed that. But then we did better. Like we did more research, we did more accurate research, and we were actually really wrong. We were incorrect on that. So we had to educate the public, hey, being gay is not a mental illness. It is just one of the possibilities of one of the variations of human sexuality. And now we're doing similar education. Like being transgender is not some type of like, you're not like crazy or something. All it means is that you have some type of a little bit of a variation in the way that your internal sex is developed so that the way that it kind of presents and like your desires and stuff are a little bit like they're a little bit different. So you might need some medical care to help just make those things more aligned, and that's it. Like the way that it kind of it's not this exactly, but if there's a person who is born in intersex or something like that, they're born
Mhm.
intersex, and when they're 18, they want to get some type of a genital surgery to make them feel more aligned to the sex that they're living as. Like that is something that intersex people do. It's
Yeah.
a very similar thing for transgender people. This is going to help them to live a more functional life, going to help them fit in to whatever they want to, especially if they're transsexual people. That's usually a goal for them to like fit in with the other people who are their preferred sex as well. Um, and to just be kind. Like and that's kind of it. Just be kind to people who are a little bit different from you.
So I
Um,
I find a lot of the times that besides I get having these conversations are gonna help, but not everybody's gonna want to have the conversation. I find like a lot of the trans community, if you get mispronounced, and this I get it's not everybody, but I feel like it's big in like I feel like it happens awful too often that someone gets misgendered and they make like the biggest deal. There's this one TikToker that she goes to like restaurants and she sits down and like she doesn't pass
I
as a
know, I know what you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about that
Yeah,
she's like a white lady.
yeah, Lily Tino.
Yeah, and she like
Um,
kind of gets people in trouble for like doing that.
right. And I think that it's just like people can be toxic.
Yeah, of course.
Period. Like, yeah. Um, and I do kind of want to, yeah. And another thing that I want to do is like understand that, like I said, there are people who are just toxic or annoying or irritating. Like, don't make your all of your assumptions on trans people based off of those experiences. Like understanding that, like, um, yeah, understanding that people are just like like the majority of trans people just would like to make a couple of changes, whether it's social changes or medical changes, to feel a little bit better about themselves, to feel like they are like fit in with like their community or whatever types of different types of things. Um, and like, yeah, not to just like be cruel to them or be like, well, because this one trans woman was making people use her pronouns,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
never gonna
yeah.
use anybody's pronouns
Very
now. And I'm like,
anecdotal.
okay, that's weird. That's a
Yeah,
weird assessment to make.
very anecdotal. But my thing is like I've never encountered, and I've met so many trans people. I don't know if like there's just like a big trans community in Connecticut, but I've met so many trans people, and it's like all the same thing. Like I make a mistake, and like it's the biggest deal. It's the biggest deal in the world, and like you said, I don't know how else to go about that besides the way you're going about it. Like you people are just annoying, and some people are just toxic.
Yeah, that's honestly, yeah, yeah. Like, and the other thing too, like it like, yeah, it can. How I like to think about it is like the LGBTQ community is filled with a lot of people who have been like chronically rejected by people in
Yeah,
their
just
life.
outsiders, a bunch of
So
outsiders. Yeah, of
some of them have a sensitivity to continued rejection, which makes
course.
sense to me. Um, and yeah, and I don't necessarily think we should be cruel to them for that. Just understanding like
So how do
got
you
a
feel
lot
about?
going on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and like, yeah, just more compassion, I guess.
How would you feel about like somebody that doesn't like so that someone that respects what you have going on and is not going to tell you that what you're doing is wrong, but like it's not going to essentially not going to respect your pronouns.
Like, I just would be like, I don't want to share space with you at all.
Right.
Like, I and like you don't. Mm, yeah, it to me it's very very similar to being like, my name is Sam, and you're like, bet Rebecca. Okay, like that's very strange and like very weird, and I don't want to be around. Like, why? That's really strange.
But
Why
like
would you do
sometimes
that?
like somebody makes a like and then like sometimes it's hard for people to like digest this stuff because being this whole trans community wasn't as big as it was in like there was the trans population was not this big 20 years ago.
Okay, we're like, I would say like this. I don't know, open
Yeah, as far as this
or
open and like
visible
this, and
is,
I feel like
yeah.
it's very like aggressively in your face. Like this is who I am, and you're gonna accept that. And if you're not gonna accept that, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense.
But
Like,
yeah, I mean, because
yeah,
it's
like,
kind of the
yeah,
same
if you're
argument for
literally
like,
someone who's just like, hey, you're Muslim, like, I reject you fundamentally. It's like, okay,
yeah,
like we're gonna have a problem then. Like, what do you mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
okay, thank you for telling
But
me
if
that. Like,
they're
I
not
don't want
like,
anything to do with you. Like,
I
it's that
bet,
type
but
of
like
a
a
thing.
lot
If
of
you're going to make it very clear that you don't care about me, my life, like, or this one area of my life that happens to be important because like it might, well, for whatever reason, might be important for that person, then please don't try. Like, be like, hey, I refuse to care about your pronouns. I'm just gonna not be over there. Like, there's that. Um, and yeah, and that's another thing too. That's a good comment. Someone mentioned like sometimes it can, like, I personally have corrected a person on my pronouns in like a very neutral way, even like a joking way. Sometimes they've gotten very angry at me, and I'm like, dude, okay, like, I'm sorry you're so angry. Like, I didn't do anything. Like,
yeah,
so that's what I. So there. It can come. Sometimes it can go both ways. People can feel very attacked for being corrected,
of course.
and then some people can be very angry for being misgendered many times. Like, it can go both ways. That's why I'm saying, like, I think, me personally, I think compassion overall is important. And like, and so this, my message to other trans people is to have compassion on people who don't know you, or like who are making mistakes, or who are being honest and trying to get your pronouns right but make mistakes. Like, be compassionate and like be direct to other people who are going to be disrespectful to you. Like, it's
Yeah, I agree
yeah,
completely. I agree completely on that. Because for the most part, I respect everyone's pronouns. What I don't, the only people's pronouns who I don't respect are children's pronouns. I don't think children know enough about anything.
that's
You know,
bizarre.
why is that bizarre?
Like, are you gonna be like, are you 17? Oh, she, her then. Like, that's bizarre. That's really strange. Like,
No.
what's the age cutoff for you?
So I
That's
think
really strange.
what I want the age cutoff to be is 25 when your brain is fully developed, or whatever.
Oh my fucking
Whenever your brain is fully developed. Whenever
oh
your
my
brain
god.
is fully developed. I don't know the exact age, but
Okay, so an
and
adult, a 24-year-old adult who said, I'm a transgender man, I use he him. She, you're not 25, bitch. I don't trust you to understand who you are.
no, no, no,
Like,
no. So
really?
like I'm talking about as far as not so socially is a different thing. Socially, I think you should be able to transition in your like teens, but the transition, like the physical transition,
That's what I'm
is
saying. No, no, no. That's not. I'm not even saying any of that. I'm saying like we're talking like
just
a
pronouns.
a 14-year-old transgender woman, a transgender young teenage girl, like understands, knows that she's trans, like wears skirts and dresses to school. Everyone calls her Sarah and she her.
Hmm.
You, like, from what you're saying, is you would just like you would
No,
maybe
no,
would
no,
say,
no.
because you're young, you don't know, so I'm gonna keep calling you he, and I'm gonna make up a male name for you because I don't know your birth name. Like, that is
No,
that what you would do? Like, that's what I'm saying. That's so bizarre.
no, yeah, yeah. So I think somewhere in the teens, I don't know, I don't got a number for you right now. Somewhere in the teens, you should be able to socially transition. I don't think a 7 year, because the studies show that as like from like 3 to 7, they start showing is when they start questioning their identity and stuff. I think it's BS.
Are
I
you?
think
And I'm really curious. Are you a child development researcher?
no,
Have you
I'm
done?
not. I'm not.
Okay, so
But I think these,
I do not respect your opinion, and
of
and
course,
I hope you
and I
understand why.
respect you not respecting that.
Okay. Just because, like, if you were like a researcher or something, then I would have a little bit more maybe reason to appreciate this comment. But because you have like it's an interesting thought, but that's
Right.
all that's
No, no, no.
all the respect that I can give to it. It's an interesting thought.
So I think somewhere in the teens they should be able to socially transition. I don't think a middle schooler or a elementary school child should be transitioning socially. I think they should be getting therapy, but I don't think they should be socially transitioning. I think for the overall sex change, that should be like a over like 21. I can't get a tattoo at 20.
You get a tattoo at 18.
Right.
You get a
Well,
piercing at
if
18.
if I can't drink at 21, why should I be able to change my sex?
I guess like the other thing you need to understand too, like there are a lot of like medical things like that are like medical permissions that are given to people who are under 18. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
but
you've had a really
they're not
bad
consenting.
injury.
They're not
You want to
consenting.
get
Their
your
parents
foot
are.
amputated? Like there are sometimes young adults or like young teenagers who are making those decisions, who
They
are
aren't.
a part of
They're
making
not
those
making it. Their
decisions. Those are
parents are.
no, they are a part of those decisions. Like,
Of course,
I
they're a
forget,
part of
maybe
the
it's like
decision, but the overall
14 or
decision would be the
12.
parent. The
At
overall
like four,
decision
I
would be the
forget, it's like
parent.
12, 14 something. There is an age where the children have to also agree.
Yeah, well, but the overall decision, if the child fights back against what the parent says and ends up going to court or whatever, the parent all is 90% of the time gonna have the say.
And I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you because they're a child. Yes, I agree. But what I'm trying to say is that they consider strongly the opinion of the child, like in within the treatment. Like, that is a thing that happens for people who are not adults yet. And that should also be considered within the medical treatment of transgender people and transsexual people specifically. Like, that's my position.
Okay. Um.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think I also personally my other opinions are medical transition is very serious and should not be taken lightly.
Right.
Like,
I do. I
and
think
ta-
that's.
So like I have all these opinions all together, and they kind of come together to present hopefully like something that is reasonable to the majority of people. I know some people hate my position. Some people think that I'm not. People think that I'm not open enough, and
Mhm.
whatever. This is where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I find you very, very reasonable. I want to touch on one more thing before I go, and I want to come
Okay.
back on this. I'm gonna follow you. I want to come back with my. I want to show you my notes.
Okay. Cool.
Um, how do you feel about trans women or trans people in sports?
My opinion is that I don't know enough, like scientifically, about like exercise science, and I trust the medical professionals and scientists who have made the decisions already. Like the scientists who were consulted when they made the decisions to allow certain transgender people into certain sports in the Olympics. I'm open to that. There are some that have been denied. Okay, that happens in some situations. Like, yeah, I think these
Right.
are pretty. Like, this is a pretty sensitive situation. It needs to be taken pretty seriously. We need to look at all of the different types of like medical differences and stuff. There definitely are probably going to be people like trans women who like it's not going to be appropriate for them to play with other cis women. I'm sure that that will happen sometimes, and there will be some situations where it might not be where it might be really different. Because, like for example, if a person is able to transition very early, they might not like testosterone just does not do as much to the system.
Yeah.
Like for example, and I think that being able to have that cognitive flexibility is maybe the most honest, the most honest perspective to have on this topic. Because I think being too narrow is the same type of frustration that creates barriers for even cis women who happen
Yes.
to be like have higher testosterone or something from
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
sports, and I think that's fucked up. So like, yeah, that's kind of where
Yeah,
I'm at with that.
I agree with you. I feel like it's very subjective, sport to sport. Like in my sport, I I fight people. Like I wouldn't be okay with just like dismantling a woman or well, not a woman. Like I wouldn't be this. I wouldn't be comfortable dismantling like a trans man. I just wouldn't be able to. I feel like it's too physical. I feel like sports like football, MMA, jiu-jitsu, like I feel like contact sports, especially combat sports, trans people. I honestly think trans people should have their own league. I'd watch that. I'd watch the fuck out of that.
I think it'd be there just aren't enough trans people.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
there just aren't enough of us in the world to do that. Um, like sure it could be interesting, but yeah. And then also I think that the other thing too is this idea that like women are not fragile. Like
No, of
yes,
course.
there is sexual dimorphism within the Homo sapien species. Yes, that's a reality. But women are not fragile. Like that's an interesting. I don't know. It seems like you have a framework that women are like
No, 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 no.
females are more
My coach is
fragile
a
for some
woman.
reason.
She'll dismantle me. My coach is a woman. She'll like she's really good. But like I think the statistically speaking, 90% of the time a man is going to beat a woman. I'm not saying that women are fragile, but 90% of the time, and at least in a combat sport, 90% of the time a man is going to beat a woman.
Right. And and women aren't fragile. Like
And
those
women aren't
things.
fragile. And women aren't fragile. I think women are definitely not fragile.
Yeah.
We have some of the best women fighters in the UFC. Like women are definitely not fragile. I agree with you.
Yeah. And like also you have to like yeah. Sorry. Like the female sex like is not for everyone obviously, but it's just defined by pain for a lot of them. Just like with monthly cycles and like birth. Like there's just so much resilience like that women have to just exist from day to day. It's yeah. So I just have a you know
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
bow to women because of how amazing they are and how much
No,
they
of course.
carry
Hats off.
society and have
Hats
not
off.
the respect. So just
Hats
yeah,
off.
quick.
Hats off. I appreciate your time. You were very. I go on these debates a lot, and like I told you, they're not. Sometimes they get ugly.
Oh, for sure. But
Appreciate you. I appreciate you being nice.
no, yeah. Thanks for having a chill conversation. Much
Yes,
appreciated.
sir. Or what's your pronouns? I'm sorry.
I use they them pronouns.
They them. Wait. So how would can you? I don't know how that works.
It's like oh, that's Mav. They are
But they.
they
So
are
like I
they're
would
cool.
say.
They're
How would
regular.
I do? How would I say? Oh, so Okay, I get it. 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 I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Um, yeah. Like, I think that it's frustrating that we live in a world where, like, and I think that this is just the reality. We oftentimes have to earn respect, which is annoying. Um, I I know that culturally, people like, for example, people who use they them pronouns are like here, like just culturally, the stuff that I hear. Like, if I see someone, like I've heard this from people, if I see someone who has they them pronouns on their like job, their what is that, their resume, I'm not going to hire them. I'm not going to have a person like that in my company. Like that is an interesting thought to have about an entire category of people just because of the pronouns that they use. It's a very interesting thing to think about. And I think that the level of respect is lower generally for, I think, the general public. And also, you know my opinions on the opinions of Americans and gender nonconformity. I think that it makes them very uncomfortable. Um, but yeah, I think navigating a world where we understand that there are people who are just a little bit different. And we need to also remember that like this type of toxicity impact does not only impact trans people, it impacts cisgender people who are gender nonconforming. It impacts cisgender people who are not gender nonconforming, but just like look they look gender nonconforming just for whatever reason, just the way they're born or whatever. Like they just happen to look more masculine. This man happens to look more feminine and gets like hated on for no fucking reason. This is toxic. This is not healthy for us as a society generally. We can be much kinder to each other, even if we look a little bit different. I don't want to see a world where a masculine woman is like punched in the throat because she's trying to go to a bathroom and someone thinks that she's a man. That's not the type of world that I want to live in. I want to live in a type of world where we can be kind to other people, even if they might look a little bit different from them, even though we think that they look a little bit silly, like that outfit looks silly or something. Like we can still respect them and treat them as just a general individual because why not? Why not give it a try? If you're interested in like catching more of my talks and stuff like that, make sure that you hop over there to my description page and then follow the link to my Discord server. You can also do that if you go to my YouTube channel, which is Math Magic as well. Um, I like to come on here a couple times a week and have these conversations. And I'm also working on like a long form video about like this whole topic because I find it so interesting. I find like the cultural differences very interesting. I find like the fact that transsexual people themselves are like, I reject that word. I just find it very interesting. So I wanna explore this idea a little bit more. I've explored a couple of different types of ideas. We were doing some like trans representation through the ages and stuff. And so we watched a couple of like old videos and stuff. So I have those live streams on my channel if you're interested in that type of stuff as well. But yeah. So and like I said, I'm going to change the background here to make sure I add a little blurb of a quick definition so that people don't ask as often. But generally, a transgender person. Actually, I want to read this. I'm going to read this definition from this book that I'm working through, and because he says it in such a weird, funny way, but it's also very clinical. And I think that it might be useful for some people. And remember that gender refers to behavior, not sex organs. Gendered behavior refers to the cultural behaviors that are associated with these assigned gender categories. And so this individual, I forget. I need to look at. I forget his name. I need to read. I forget. Bevan, Dr. Bevan. Um, Essentially, transgenderism is a phenomenon in which the gender behavior or verbal declaration of gender identity of an individual is incongruent with their assigned natal gender or sex behavior category and is congruent with some other category. Um, so this individual, Ravi Ross, says gender is not behavior. Gender like is a word that includes behaviors in it. Like gender is a very complex umbrella term, it seems, and I feel like it would be a little bit narrow to say that gender does not include behavior. I'm not someone who thinks that gender is all behavior. My position is that there are some, at least not necessarily my position, but the position that I've kind of received from different type of the data that I've like reviewed is that gender definitely seems to be impacted by an individual's sex. Like the reason why people behave the way they do seems to be impacted by sex. but gender definitely has to do a lot with the behaviors that a person engages in. Like that is a big part of gender. And I hope that, I don't know, I hope that that's not like a crazy thing to say. But essentially, let me read that again. A phenomenon where the gendered behavior or verbal declaration of gender identity of an individual is incongruent with their assigned natal gender behavior category and congruent with some other gender behavior category. This is, like I said, this is a very like interesting clinical definition that utilizes this like gender behavior category word rather than sex. And I'm not exactly sure why he chooses to use that. He explains it in some other things too. But essentially, another way, an easier way to understand it is that a person's like understanding of their gender identity, their like preferred sex, those are kind of three words that can kind of encompass these types of feelings. Those three things are different than a person's like than what the person's genitals say that they're going to become when they're an adult. I know that people are not born a gender, but when a person in American, let's say in American society, if you're born with a penis, we expect you to become a man. And what this is saying is that if your gender category that you if your understanding of your gender category is different than that, but you look down and you see something different, you might just be transgender, right? Um, and then this book discusses the they call it like transsexual transition. And like I'm saying, this book is called the Psychobiology of Transsexualism and Transgenderism by Dr. Bevan. Um, Yeah, so Chart talks about transsexual transition, which is just the process of an individual, a transgender individual, taking the steps to transition their birth sex characteristics. Um, I am born and I do not have titties. I would like titties, so I take hormones to get them. I have titties and I would not like them, so sometimes like hormones can help reduce the size of your chest. Some people don't know that. Some people don't expect that. That actually happens to them. Ooh, that's a whole thing. Never mind. We could talk a lot about that anyway. But yeah, so hormones can reduce the size of your chest, or you might pursue. There's different types of surgeries you can take, and also, like for example, if you're a person who can't, yeah, never mind. I'm not going to get into this right now. Never mind. Okay. Um, right. Another reason why I think that this conversation is helpful is because I think that I find that trans people get mad at each other because I honestly believe that trans people get mad at each other because transsexual people are looking for advice that will help them. And they ask transgender people for advice that transsexuals need. And they're like upset because some of the stuff that they ask just can seem very triggering for them. A good example, if you are, I don't know, if you're part of this type of culture generally, then you know what trans voice is. It's generally something that describes transmasculine individuals who have like a feminine like tone, a higher pitched resonance to their voice, like they have gay voice, like that type of a thing. So there was a video of a trans man who was talking about his experience. He said, I have the voice, like I have trans voice, and I don't give a fuck. Like it doesn't matter that I have this voice. I really don't care. And like you guys shouldn't care either. That was kind of like his messaging. And someone in the chat was like, but dysphoria though. And it wasn't quite like an argument about it, but you can definitely tell that there are some individuals like who need who not necessarily need but like having a voice that communicates like I am male is important to them because of their just gender dysphoria, and it's not bad that they just have that. Some transgender people might shame them and be like you're toxic for wanting that, and like that's a really strange thing. And I think that we're creating toxicity within the community. We're not able to help each other well enough because we're not able to communicate like what we need. So if a transgender person, they might not have as much dysphoria or something like that as the other person. Actually, I lied. That's a little bit incorrect. But like, yeah, so one transsexual person might have less dysphoria than another person, and we should not like condemn them for the amount of dysphoria that they have. That's kind of what I mean. Um, And if there is a person who, for example, like has not transitioned at all medically and identifies as a man or something like that, and they're like, I have a massive chest and I don't care about it at all. You shouldn't care about your chest either, trans man. That doesn't work. Like that doesn't work. You know what I mean? I hope that people are understanding what these things mean. Um, so there's function in my brain, function into how we communicate these things to the world generally, and function as to like how we communicate to each other in the community. So, whew, alrighty. I forgot to check to see if okay. Um, okay, cool. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and all that fun stuff. And I forgot that YouTube existed. I just wanted to say hi to those over there. Nelly, that's all I see who commenting. So thank you so much for showing up and hanging out and stuff like that. Yeah. Um, we will pause for today here, and we'll come back. Oh, I might come back later today. If I'm not working on my other video, then I'll probably come back this afternoon. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably not. I'm probably gonna work on the video instead because I have a lot of shit to do. But I have some time this like Thursday or something like that. But yeah. Um, okay. All right, guys. And like I said, the other thing too is like comments get stuck. But I on the YouTube, but I like to have the comments showing just because sometimes you guys say crazy ass things. And anyway, all right. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.